कौन था ये, जरा दिखाओ। कौन भाई, क्या नाम आपका? औरत है क्या? देखो अभी अधेड़ उम्र की औरत को चूतिया बोलेंगे तो अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, इसलिए नहीं बोल रहा। ये क्या टेलीफोन को लेके आ गया क्या पूरा? ये सब ट्रिंग कब बजता भाई, इतना बड़ा फोन लेके आएगा कोई? वह अनाउंसमेंट होती है फोन साइलेंट वाइलेंट करने की, बोले नहीं मैं लाल हुई कॉइन वाला डब्बा लेके आया। स्टैंड अप जो लोग देखते हैं उनको पता है स्टैंड अप में क्या होगा, क्या एक्सपेक्ट करना है। बिग बॉस वालों की भी गलती नहीं है, गलती मेरी है। गलती मेरी है कि मैंने क्या कर दिया है ना, ऑडियंस को कंफ्यूज कि भाई ये तो शायरियां करता है। स्टैंड अप अलग है। लोग मांगों को लेके आ जाते कि अम्मी वो पता है बिग बॉस में रूहानी बातें करता था लड़का, उसका शो हो रहा है। माँ बोलती चलो बेटा चलो, दुआएं दे के आएंगे। या माँ आगे कंफ्यूज है कि बेटा ये लंड लंड क्यों कर रहा है। ये मेरी गलती है कि थोड़ा अलग है। देखो मैं बहुत ऑफ द स्टेज में बहुत अलग इंसान हूं, मैं स्टेज पे बहुत अलग इंसान हूं। शायरी और स्टैंड अप में बहुत फर्क है। शायरी देखो, शायरी का मतलब ही क्या है ना, बात है, ऐसी बातें जो दिल को छू जाए। आई विल गिव यू द एग्जांपल। देखो शमा जलती है परवाना मचलता है। तुम समझ रहे हो कि ये मुनव्वर फारूक की बिग बॉस शायरी है कि शमा जलती है परवाना मचलता है। अब स्टैंड अप अलग चीज है कि शमा जलती है क्योंकि उसके अब्बा ने दहेज नहीं दिया। देखा, तुम एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहे थे ना, वहां तो परवाना जल ही रहा है। स्टैंड अप अनएक्सपेक्टेड चीज है। आप जो एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करोगे वो सब यहां पे होगा, ठीक है? यस कौन? दुबई से है? अब तो वही हुआ। अबू धाबी मतलब अलग है। मैं गया था अबू धाबी। पांजू मेरा। अभी आधा ऑडियंस और कंफ्यूज कि ये व्लॉग का ऑडियंस अलग है। ठीक है, हम दुबई वाले से बात करते हैं। हेलो हबीबी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। दुबई में क्या करते हो आप, रहते हो? तो दुबई वाला जो शो था, देखो आधी उम्र की औरत को चूतिया बोलना अच्छा तो नहीं लगता, तो आपसे रह गया होगा, मिस हो गया होगा। आप अबू यू लिव, बट वो नजदीक पड़ता ना इससे। तो दोस्तों के साथ आना था। अच्छा, वो सारे दोस्त इधर रहते? अच्छा बढ़िया। बॉम्बे में सबसे बड़ा क्या दोस्त है? सबसे बड़ा दोस्त है। okay. अब अबू धाबी में क्या करते हो? होम मेकर, घर बनाते हो। वो हाउसवाइफ का कुछ अपग्रेड वर्जन है क्या ये है ना? हम लोगों ने ना एकदम इमोशंस में आगे ऐसे कर दिया ना, माँ का जो हाउसवाइफ का काम होता है वो इजी नहीं होता, लंड कुछ नहीं होता। मैं किया हूं भाई। मेरे को पता चलता है बहुत इजी काम है ये तो।
विवेक आप गए नहीं?
सर वो वेडिंग फिक्स हो गया दिल्ली में। मेरे को सुन के थोड़ा अजीब लगा, लेकिन मैं खुश हुआ ये जान के कि हनीफ का शादी फिक्स हो गया फाइनली। इसका नहीं हो रहा था, इसके बाप का 3 हो चुका। हम लोग बोलते थे तू लड़की देखने बाप को लेके मत जाएगा। इसका बाप बोलता था बेटा पसंद है, बेटा बोलता था हाँ पसंद तो है, बाप बोलता पसंद तो मुझे भी है। हनीफ की शादी फिक्स हो गई है। मेरा दोस्त दूसरा है काशिफ। काशिफ हमारे एरिया का भाई है। डॉन लोग रहते हैं ना जो मारते पहला बाद में बात करते हैं। मैं काशिफ को कॉल किया, मैं काशिफ पता चला? काशिफ बोला हाँ बस मैं फ्लाइट्स की टिकट बुक कर रहा हूँ, तेरी भी नेक्स्ट डे की कर रहा हूँ। बोला तू पागल हो गया है, अपने दोस्त की शादी है, 1 दिन के लिए जाएगा? 7 दिन के लिए जाएंगे, बारात के साथ जाएंगे, भाभी लेके आएंगे, नाचेंगे, एंजॉय करेंगे, तो थोड़ा एडजस्ट कर। वो मेरी बात मान गया और अब हम लोग बारात के साथ दिल्ली जाएंगे। बैंड्रा स्टेशन पे पहुंचे, 40 घंटा लगा दिल्ली पहुंचने। दिल्ली आ ही नहीं रहा। रोज सुबह उठ रहे, ट्रेन में ही हम लोग 40 घंटे। और रोज सुबह उठ रहे, हनीफ का बाप टूथपेस्ट बांट रहा, खुद की भी नहीं, किसी आंटी की लेके बांट रहा सबको। 40 घंटे का सफर किया हमने ट्रेन में। उसके बाद हम लोग दिल्ली पहुंचे। निजामुद्दीन स्टेशन पे जैसे हम लोग बाहर निकले, 3 टाटा सुमो आई, हम 50 लोग। काशिफ मेरा मुंह देख रहा है। बोला भाई थोड़ा एडजस्ट करना, दोस्त की शादी है। हर टाटा सुमो में 5-5 लोग ऑलरेडी बैठे, रिसीव करना है। मेरे को हनीफ के खालू की गोद में बिठाया, एक बच्चे को मेरी गोद में बिठाया और एक बच्चे को मेरे कंधे पे बिठाया। गाड़ी चल रही है। अब इसमें हमारा ड्राइवर है सत्तार भाई, लंबी दाढ़ी है, सुरमा है, टोपी है, और ये चिल्ला के बात करता हजरत। मैं बोला वो दाढ़ी नहीं रहते उन, चिल्ला रहा कान पे। बोला क्या हो गया? बोले डैशबोर्ड खोलो। बोला यस सर, इंडिगो में आपका स्वागत है सर। ऐसे नहीं किया मैं, गुस्सा आ रहा मेरे को। मैं बोला क्या चाहिए आपको सर? अगरबत्ती निकालो। माचिस? क्या करूं? जलाओ। मैं अगरबत्ती बच्चे के दांत में फंसाया। खालू ऊपर चढ़ो। खालू कहां ऊपर चढ़ाने बोल रहा? बाल जल गए। पीछे से अत्तर की शीशी आई। बोला क्या है? बोले लगाओ। अत्तर मना नहीं करते हैं, तो मैंने थोड़ा लगा लिया। ना ठीक है। बोले नहीं पीछे दे दो। टाटा सुमो में 25 लोग हैं और सबके सब अत्तर रगड़ रहे। मैं बोला भाई जल्दी से पहुंचा दे भाई, थोड़ी देर में वापस ये हजरत। मैं बोला भाई कवाली की सीडी निकालो। ओके सर। मुझे चढ़ गया चिश्ती रंग। बोले ख्वाजा का मेला। मैं बोला हाँ ठीक है, ख्वाजा का मेला, हाँ ठीक है। अब कवाली में भी ना ड्रॉप आता है, जैसे म्यूजिक में से ड्रॉप आता है ना, ऐसे कवाली में भी ड्रॉप आता है। लाइक ख्वाजा का मेला, सुने? अब वो अत्तर की वजह से मेरा सर चक्कर आ रहा है। जब आप कार पैक होती है और इतने 25 लोगों ने अत्तर लगाया है, तो खुशबू की वजह से सर दुखता है। पता है मेरा सर दुख रहा है, तो मैं तो ऐसे कर रहा हूँ।
Good afternoon. This is Rosy Barik, Assistant Professor in HR and OB. So today we'll be discussing on human resource planning. The code is MMPH-003, Block 1, Unit 2. It's all about labor market dynamics. So here we'll be discussing on overview of labor market institutions in India. Importance of understanding labor market dynamics. Institutions that shape Indian labor market outcomes and dynamics. Labor market dynamics, effectiveness of labor policies in India in addressing labor market challenges. Labor market institutions and policies, labor market participation and its outcomes, informal sectors and gig economy, state human capital in India, skill development and human capital, emerging trends and future outlooks. So, if we'll see the labor market dynamics, the overview of it is labor market institutions of India are designed to protect workers' rights, ensure safe and healthy working conditions, and provide social security and its different kinds of benefits. Here are some key labor market institutions in India. Those are labor laws, trade unions, minimum wages, social security, employment exchanges, industrial dispute act. So, first of all, we'll be discussing labor laws. As we know that Government of India has provided so many labor laws that to protect and regulate the working conditions of the workforce. So, India's labor laws regulate wages, working hours, industrial disputes, social security, and health and safety conditions and are enforced by Ministry of Labor and Employment. Now comes to the trade unions. As you know that the employee associations in the industry is known as trade union. The trade unions in India plays a crucial role in representing workers' interests and negotiating with employers across various sectors of economy. Minimum wages. Minimum Wages Act 1948. It sets the minimum wages of workers in various industries which are revised periodically based on inflations and other factors. So, we will see the social security. Here, the social security under it, Minimum Wages Act 1948 establishes minimum wages for workers of different industries which are updated periodically and also some social security acts to the workmen in the industries. Employment exchanges. Employment exchanges, that is compulsory notifications of vacancies act, that is 1959, which establishes employment exchanges to help match the job seekers with job vacancies. Now comes to the Industrial Dispute Act. The Industrial Dispute Act 1947, it facilitates dispute resolutions between employers and workers or employees or we can say laborers through conciliation, arbitration and adjudication. Therefore, we can see that the implementation of this institution has provide social security, working conditions, health and safety and other benefit to the laborers or we can say workforce. Now comes to the importance of understanding the labor market dynamics. What is the role of labor market dynamics? So here we will see understanding labor market dynamics in India is essential for policymakers, researchers, employers, employees and other stakeholders for several reasons. Those are informing policy designing, enabling effective labor market responses, supporting economic growth, reducing inequality and poverty, ensuring social stability. So, first of all, we'll be discussing on informing policy designing. So, a deep understanding of labor market dynamics helps policymakers to create evidence based policy to tackle the issues like unemployment, underemployment, and low wages, supporting job creation, skill development, and social protection. That means policy should be created in such a manner that should tackle the different issues of India's like unemployment, underemployment, wages issue, job creation and skill development issues, as well as social protections. Enabling effective labor market responses. Understanding labor market dynamics enables employers, employees, and other stakeholders to adapt to changing the conditions. So there are different kind of situations or conditions has been arrived in the industries, and that should be handled effectively and qualitatively. So, employers can modify their recruitment and training policies to attract skilled workers, while employees can focus on skill development to maintain employability. Then, supporting economic growth. So, we will be discussing here how labor market dynamics is supporting for the economic condition of the industry as well as the nation. Now, the labor market dynamics are vital for country's economic growth, as understanding demand and supply can help firms identify new business opportunities, drive innovations, and creating new jobs. Now we will be discussing on reducing inequality and poverty. So, labor market dynamics significantly affect the inequality and poverty levels in India, and understanding employment patterns, working conditions, and wages that can help policymakers to support vulnerable groups. Now, the ensuring social stability. So, the labor market dynamics significantly affect the social stability. We can say understanding the employment and unemployment patterns that can help policymakers to create strategies to support vulnerable groups and mitigate the negative impact of the labor market shocks. So we can see labor market dynamics has both positive as well as some negative influence on the labor force or workforce. It has a positive impact, but in some cases, like informal sectors, there are some negative impact or that need to be developed, and economic conditions should be developed on informal sectors. So now we will be see institutions that shape labor market, Indian labor market outcomes and dynamics. So we will discuss here what are the outcomes of Indian institutions that shape the Indian labor market. First, government policies, trade unions, employers association, educations and training institutions, global economic conditions, informal institutions. So, government policies, as we have previously discussed, government has provided so many laws, policies, rules, regulation to shape the labor market. So, the government policies significantly shape the market outcomes with educations, training, social security, labor laws, and taxation all playing the important roles. Now comes to the trade unions. Trade unions are the crucial in protecting workers' right and negotiating with the employers, influencing labor market outcomes by advocating for better wages, working conditions, and benefits. So, trade union is a kind of employees association to protect them or with negotiating with the employers. Now, the employers associations, likewise trade unions, employers have certain association, that is employers association. It represents the employers interest and negotiation with workers. It influencing the labor market outcomes by advocating for lower wages, reduced benefits, and more flexible working arrangements. And here, education and training institution. It is very much required for both labor employees as well as the employers. Education and training institutions plays a vital role in shaping workforce human capital by providing the skills needed for better paying jobs and meeting labor market demands. The global economic conditions. The global economic conditions significantly impact the Indian labor market as worldwide demand for goods and services that affects employment opportunities and competitions influence wages and working conditions. As we can see, the global economic conditions is changing rapidly. With this labor market dynamics and different Indian institutions which provide the employment opportunities and competitions influences on wages and working conditions of workforce. Informal institutions like norms, values, and customs significantly influence labor market outcomes by shaping employment patterns, working conditions, and wages in informal sectors. There are also certain institutions which are informal in nature. So, to save the employment pattern, to help the employees with their working condition and wages, so several informal institutions has been defined with certain norms, values. So, both formal and informal institutions significantly influence labor market outcomes in India. So, making it essential to understand them for designing effective policies to address the labor market changes. So, different kinds of institutions we have been discussed here. Those are government policies, trade unions, employers associations, education and training institutions, global economic conditions, and informal institutions. Now we will be discussing on effectiveness of labor policies in India in addressing labor market challenges. So what are the labor policies have been derived or have been developed to challenge the labor market? Here we will be discussed on minimum wages, social security, labor laws, skill development, make in India. So, for first is minimum wages. The minimum wages are 1948, which aims to protect from workers from exploitations by ensuring a minimal level of pay, but minimum wages in India often fail to meet the basic needs and enforcement is weak, particularly in informal sector where many workers lack legal protections. comes to the social security policies like Employee State Insurance Act 1948 and the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008 aim to provide benefits to the workers such as medical facilities, maternity benefit, and other benefits. But their coverage is limited and often inadequate, especially for those in informal sector. It shows that most of the benefits have been provided to the formal sectors, but in certain cases there is lack in informal sectors. So there are different labor laws are also there. Indian labor laws like Industrial Dispute Act 1947, the Factories Act 1948, which aim to protect the workers' right and ensure safe conditions, and also they are providing the working hours, but their weak implementation leaves many workers without legal protections, and hiring and firing regulations have been criticized for hindering workforce adjustment in response to the labor market or labor market changes. Now we will be discussing about skill development. The Skill India mission, which has been launched in 2015, which aims to provide skill training to millions of youth for employability. But its effectiveness in closing the skill gap and improving labor market outcome is still uncertain. Make in India, as we know that the Make in India launched in 2014 with initiative aims to attract foreign investment and to create different jobs. But its effectiveness in providing sustainable employment and addressing labor market that challenges remains uncertain. So we can see there are certain uncertainties which is very difficult to reach to the workforce. So the effectiveness of labor policies in India addressing the labor market challenges, those are minimum wages, social security, labor laws, skill development, make in India. Now we will be discussing on labor market institutions and its policies. There are various labor market institutions. Those are labor laws, social security systems, minimum wage laws, skill development programs, employment generation programs. As we know that there are various laws, policies has been derived to promote the labor conditions or to promote the employees conditions in the different sectors in different industries. So the labor laws in India regulates the relationship between employers and employees, covering minimum wages, working conditions, and hours to protect workers' rights and promote social welfare. It enforced by Ministry of Labor and Employment. That means through the labor laws, there are certain provisions like minimum wages, working conditions, working hours, protection of workers' right, promoting social welfare, which is very much essential for labor in different industries. Social security systems, as I have already discussed, different types of social security system through different types of labor laws like ESI, PF, and others like maternity benefits. Employee Equal Remuneration Act also there. So social security systems in India, it includes the EPFO, Employee Pension Fund Organization, or we can say Employee Provident Fund Organization, ESIC, that is Employee State Insurance Scheme, then NPS, National Pension Scheme, that provide financial support to workers during unemployment, sickness or disabilities. So, minimum wage laws said the lowest amount of employers can legally pay their employees in India with rates determined by central as well as state governments and varying by sector and region. That means it varies by cost of living index. At different area, at different demographic region, different minimum wages can be fixed. Now we will be discussing on skill development programs. So as we have already discussed the skill development schemes, so skill development programs in India like Skill India Mission and National Skill Development Corporations, which aim to equip workers with the skills that needed for effective job performance. And employee generation program. Employment generation programs in India, employment generation programs like MGNR, EGA and PMEGP aim to create job opportunities for unemployed workers. The MGNREGA denotes Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, whereas PMEGP denotes Pradhan Mantri's Employment Generating Program. So, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Pradhan Mantri's Employment Generating Program provides, it aims to create the job opportunities for unemployment workers. So, different labor market institutions and policies are labor laws, social security system, minimum wages laws, skill development programs, and employment generation programs. Now we will be discussing on labor market participation and its different outcomes. What are the labor market participation? First of all, education, gender, urbanization, informal sector, and technology. First of all, we will be discussing on education. As we know that education plays the vital role not only in labor market but also the society. So, education is the vital for labor market participation, as individuals with higher education levels are more likely to secure better paying jobs. If the employees are educated, they are coming under skilled worker and technical workers, so they will be get the better paying jobs. So gender significantly affects the labor market participation in India, where women, uh, the women face barriers like cultural norms, limited education access, and discrimination in hiring and promotions. So, in this case, in gender case, the women are facing very much, so much barriers like cultural, limited education access, and discrimination in hiring and promotions. Unurbanization, unurbanization in India leads to higher labor force participation rates and increased demand for skilled labor in urban areas. So, now we will be discussing on informal sector. Here what happened, the informal sector is a major source of employment for low skilled workers in India, but these workers often face low wages, limited job security and little social protections. And what are the technology plays? The technology is transforming India's labor market by creating new job opportunities through the gig economy and digital platform. As we know that technology plays the vital role in generating economy for India, as also it plays the vital role for better productivity for the industry. It plays the vital role in employment generation. So while also displacing some traditional low skill jobs, understanding the complex factor shaping the labor market participation and the outcomes such as education, gender, urbanization, the informal sector and technology. It is the essential for policymakers to promote participations, improve working conditions, and support inclusive economic growth. So, first we have discussed about education, gender, urbanization, and informal sector. Now we will discuss about technology. There are certain key patterns in India's labor market participation that include employment rates, wages, unemployment rate, informal sector, and skill mismatch, etc. So, employment rates in India are around 40% of working age populations, with men employed at higher rates than the women, and the agricultural sector being the largest employer, followed by service and manufacturing. As we know that the agricultural sector is most powerful sector in India. Now comes to the wages. Age of 2021, the average monthly wage in India's formal sector is around in Indian rupees, that is 22,500, approximately $310, with significant variation by sector and a notable wage gap where women earn 20 to 30% less than men. Now comes to the unemployment rates. Age of 2021, India's unemployment rate is around 7.8%, with higher rates among the younger workers, those with lower education levels, and women compared to men. So, till date, at the 20th century, till date, unemployment rates is 7.8%, and we can see the women's are facing more difficulties in men. So in informal sector, about 90% of India's workforce is employed in informal sector, where workers typically face lower wages, limited job security, and restricted access to social protections. So now we will be discussing on skill mismatch. A significant skill mismatch in the Indian labor market results in many workers lacking the necessary skills for available jobs, contributing to high unemployment and limited job opportunities. So, what we have discussed about labor market participation and outcomes, first of all, employment rate, wages, unemployment rates, informal sector, skill mismatch. So, we can say that, or we can see here that the huge difference between employment rates as well as the unemployment rates. And now we will be discussing on informal sector and gig economy. The what is informal sector and gig economy? Now we will be discussing here. The informal sector and gig economy are vital segments of Indian labor's market. Both have gained significant importance in recent years. So, the informal sector, it says economic activities are not regulated by the government, excluding formal labor laws. Like the informal sectors are strict vending, small scale manufacturing, domestic work, and constructions. Approximately 90% of the workers is employed in informal sector. What are the challenges they are facing? We can see here low wages, limited job security, lack of social protection, exclusion from government support and programs. See, the informal sector, there are so many informal sectors have been developed now every now and days. So we can see it street vending, small scale in manufacturing, domestic work and construction. So 90% of the workforce is employed for informal sector, but still there are some challenges. They are facing low wages, limited job security, lack of social protection, and exclusion from government support programs. Now we will be discussing on gig economy. The short term work arrangements facilitated by digital platforms and technology. As technology is playing the most vital role, so here we can see ride hailing like Uber, Ola, food delivery, Swiggy, Zomato, freelance worker work like graphic design, content creators, we can see youtubers, high degree of flexibility and autonomy for the workers, but they are getting low pay, limited job security, lack of access to social protections. Both the sectors, informal as well as gig economy, provide job opportunities but pose challenges to low wages and job insecurity. So, there are certain rules should be developed for these both formal as well as informal sectors. Now, we will be discussing about challenges faced by informal sector workers. They are low wages, limited job security, poor working conditions, limited access to social protections, discriminations and exploitations, limited access to education and training. So, we will be discussing about low wages. Workers in informal sectors earn lower wages than those in the formal sectors, making it hard to meet basic needs like housing, healthcare, educations. So, as we know that lack of focus of government, or they are not getting adequate amount of facilities provided by the government, the informal sectors are facing like they are facing very hard to meet basic needs like food, clothes, healthcare, educations. Limited job security. Informal sector jobs are often temporary and lack benefits like paid leave or pension, leading to financial insecurity for the workers. So, in informal sectors, the workers are feel very insecure as they are not getting any benefit like paid leave and other kind of benefits, security, social security benefits. Poor working conditions. Many informal sector workers face hazardous conditions with little safety gear, leading to health issues and injuries. But still, they are not able to get social security programs or benefits. So, limited access to social protections. Informal sector workers often do not have access to social protection schemes such as health insurance, unemployment benefit, and pension plans. This leaves them vulnerable to economic shocks such as illness or job loss and makes it difficult for them to plan for retirement. Discrimination and exploitation. Informal sector workers often face discrimination and exploitation due to their gender, caste, religion, and resulting in lower wages and harassment. Limited access to education and training. Many informal sectors workers cannot access the education's training, which limits their job opportunities and keeps them in poverty. So, what are the challenges that informal sector workers are facing? They are getting low wages, limited job security, poor working conditions, and limited access to social protections, discrimination and exploitations, and we can see limited access to education and training programs. Now, we will be discussing the state of human capital in India. So, India has made significant progress in improving its human capital in recent decades, but challenges remain in terms of education, skills. Challenges are still remain in terms of educations and skill levels. Education, as we have already discussed about the education system, so India has achieved nearly universal enrollment in primary education and increased enrollment in secondary and tertiary education. Despite of this progress, the quality of education is significant challenge with low learning levels and high dropout rates. We can see people or students are studying till class 5, then they drop their education system or they drop the education. Now, at 2018, the 2018 Annual Status of Education Report ASER found that only 50% of class 5 students could read at a class 2 level and just 28% of class 8 students could solve the basic math problems. What is the education system is now we can see here. Now we will be discussing on different skill levels. India faces a significant skill gaps with the mismatch between skill employees or skill employers need and those the workforce possesses. The World Economic Forum's Human Capital Index ranks India 116th out of 174 countries in terms of skill levels. The skills gap is particularly severe in manufacturing and service sector where employers struggle to find out adequately skilled workers. To address these challenges, India has launched various policies and programs, including the Right to Education Act and the Skill India initiative aimed at improving education as well as vocational training. So, a comprehensive approach involving collaboration among the government, private sector, and civil society is essential to enhance the education policies, promote lifelong learning, align training programs with labor market needs for economic growth. Now, the skill development and human capital. So, the skill development is the vital for enhancing the human capital. It enables the individual to contribute to economic and social progress through improved knowledge and abilities. By investing in skill development programs, individual can boost their employability and productivity, ultimately supporting economic growth in India. The Skill India initiative, launched in 2015, aims to provide vocational training to 400 million people by 2022, focusing on sectors like manufacturing, construction, and service. The initiative includes various programs such as apprenticeship, training schemes, and the strong emphasis on digital skills through the Digital India program. The effectively address the skill gap, a collaborative approach involving the government, private sector, and social security is essential to align education and training with labor market needs and promote lifelong learning. So, here we will be discussing about emerging trends in Indian labor market. So, what are the emerging trends? Digitalization, automation, economy, demographic changes, rise of entrepreneurship. So here we'll be discussing about digitalization. As we know that today's world is digital world. The growth of digital platforms and the gig economy allows for flexible work arrangements and self-employment. It increases the adoption of digital technologies is transforming work dynamics. So now comes to the automation. Rise of AI and the automation is changing job roles, increasing demand for advanced skills like data analysis and programming. Green economy, the transition to sustainable practices creates jobs in renewable energy, green construction, and sustainable growth. Demographic challenges, growing and aging population opens opportunities in healthcare, elder care, but necessitates enhance the social protections. The rise of entrepreneurship and startups in India is creating self-employment and job opportunities, especially in technology and innovation. This trend will increase demand for workers skilled in entrepreneurship and digital technology. Now, so we have discussed about emerging trends in Indian labor market. Those are digitalization, automation, green economy, demographic challenges, rise of entrepreneurship. Now we will be discussing on policies response and their implications for the future work in India. So, we will be discussing about upskilling and reskilling of the programs, social protection policies, innovation and entrepreneurship policies, economic policies, labor market regulations. So, first of all, we will be discussing on upskilling and reskilling the programs. The policymakers can support workers by promoting training and upskilling the programs to help them gain skills for the new economy. This includes investing in vocational educations and lifelong learning as well as targeted support for those affected by automation and digitalizations. Then now, social protection policies, policymakers can address job insecurity by promoting social protection policies that support workers in the new economy, including expanding social security programs, providing our income support during unemployment. Innovation and entrepreneurship policies, it fosters the entrepreneurship through access to finance and regulatory reforms to stimulate the job creation in technology sectors. The green economic policies, it implement the policies that promote renewable energy and sustainable industry to build low carbon economy. Labor market regulations, it ensures the worker protections, decent conditions and fair pay to foster inclusive economic growth. So, here for policy response and their implications for the future work in India, we have discussed about upskilling and reskilling the programs, social protection policies, innovation and entrepreneurship policies, and we have discussed about green economic policies, labor market regulations, and these policy responses will significantly impact the future of work in India by preparing workers for change, it ensuring job opportunities, protecting their rights, and promoting fair pay and economic growth. So, from this labor market dynamics, we can see the various policies or various laws, rules, regulation, social security, and protection has been developed by India for the workers. But there are certain sectors which are not able to get this kind of benefits. So, in India, the emerging trades are likely to shape the future of work and employment in India. It creates the new opportunities and challenges for the workers and policymakers. So, it ensures that these trends will support inclusive and sustainable economic growth. It will be important for addressing the challenges such as job insecurity, skill mismatch, social protections for workers in the new economy. As India is changing and the world is changing, due to this changing world, government of India should reach in certain level so that workers of India can get all kind of benefit. The workers from both formal as well as informal sectors. So these are all about labor workforce dynamic, or we can say labor market dynamic. So today we have discussed about different situations, policies and its outcomes. So what we have discussed, we can review it. So first we have discussed about labor market dynamics, where different kinds of labor institutions are there. Those are labor laws, trade unions, minimum wages, social security, employment exchange, industrial dispute acts. Importance of understanding labor market dynamics, informing policy design, enabling effective labor market response, supporting economic growth, reducing inequality and poverty, ensuring social stability. Then institution that say Indian labor market outcomes and dynamics, that is government policies, trade unions, employers association, then education and training institutions, global economic conditions, informal institutions. In effectiveness of labor policies in India in addressing labor market challenge, we have discussed about minimum wages, social security, labor laws, skill development, make in India policy. Labor market institutions and its different policies are, we have discussed about different labor laws, social security system, minimum wages law, skill development programs, employment generation programs. For labor lab market participation and outcomes, we have discussed about education, gender, urbanization, informal sector. Also, we have discussed about technology, where we have discussed about employment rates, wages, unemployment rates, informal sectors, skill mismatch. Here, the informal sectors and gig economy, the informal sectors, we have discussed about the examples and the different challenges faced by the informal sectors, the like street vending, small scale manufacturing, domestic work, constructions, and what challenges they are facing, like low wages, limited job security, lack of social protection, and exclusion from government support programs. And gig economy, for example, ride hailing like Ola, Uber, then food delivery, Swiggy, Zomato, freelance work, graphic design, content creators, or we can say YouTubers. What are the different challenges they are facing? Very low pay, limited job security, lack of access to social protection. Then challenges faced by informal sector workers, low wages, limited security, poor working conditions, limited access to social protections, discriminations and exploitations, limited access to educations and training. And here we have discussed the state of human capital in India, that is education. As we know, the education system of India, so we can see it is the most important part of the labor market. So, India has achieved nearly universal enrollment in primary education and increased the enrollment in secondary and tertiary education. But we can say gradually the quality of the education system is significantly changing. How? The low learning level and high dropout rate. So, according to 2018 annual status of education report, we can see that 50% of class 5 students could read at only class 2 level, and just 28% of class 8 students could solve the basic math problems. So from this we can see the education system of India, how people are not interested in enrolling them in education. Now the different skill levels, so we can see the World Economic Forum's Human Capital Index ranks India as 116th out of 174 countries in terms of skill levels. This is the huge skill gap is particularly severe in the manufacturing and service sectors, where employers struggle to find out adequately skilled workers. And skill development and human capital, here these are the points where skill development is the vital for enhancing human capital, enabling individuals to contribute to economic and social progress through improved knowledge and abilities. By investing in skill development, individuals can boost their employability and productivity, and ultimately supporting government growth in India. So, through this, we can find out that through the skill development, not only the human developed themselves, but also it become a capital for the nation. So the initiative includes such as various programs like apprenticeship training programs, training scheme, and a short emphasis on digital skills through Digital India program. As we have know about that DDU GKY program, where the rural students are coming to teach to rural students are coming to learn the different skills. So government have been providing so much scheme for enrolling or enhancing the students or enhancing the people their skills and helps them to develop themselves so that they can enroll themselves in different sectors. So, emerging trends in Indian labor market, those are digitalization, automation. As we know that today's world is digital world, so the growth of digital platforms and gig economy that allows for flexible work arrangement that people are facing so many um, work from home facilities and self employment through this digitalization. As we can see there are so many youtubers are there to develop themselves. Automation the rise of AI and automation is changing the job roles. As we have seen the role of AI nowadays, in near future AI can take every word from the human being, so it creates increasing in demand for advanced skills like data analysis and programming. Green economy, nowadays the current scenario is sustainable development, so there is a transition to sustainable practices, creates jobs in renewable energy, green construction, and sustainable agriculture. Demographic changes, growing and aging of the population opens opportunities in healthcare, elder care, but necessitates enhance the social protection. Rise of entrepreneurship. Nowadays, India is focusing on entrepreneurship or startup plans that in India it is creating self-employment and job opportunities, especially in technology and innovations. These trends will increase the demand for workers skilled in entrepreneurship and digital technologies. So, policies responses and their implications for the future work in India, we can see upskilling and reskilling the program, which is very much essential. It can include like vocational education, lifelong learning, and as well as targeted support for those affected by the automation and digitalization. There are certain systems are available in online. They can enhance their skill through the online process. Social protection policies, here the policymakers can address the job insecurity by promoting social protection policies that supports the worker in new economy, including expanding social security programs and providing income support during unemployment. Innovation and entrepreneurship policies, as I have already told you about, India is focusing on startup creating employability, so it fosters the entrepreneurship through access to finance and regulatory reforms to stimulate job creations in technology sector. And also green economic policies, it implement the policies that promotes renewable energy and sustainable industries to build a low carbon economy. And labor market regulations, it ensures workers protection, decent conditions, and fair pay to foster inclusive economic growth. So these are the policies responses will significantly impact on future of the work in India by preparing workers for engage or for change, ensuring job opportunities, protecting their rights, and promoting fair pay and economic growth. These are all about labor market dynamics. Thank you.